Smoke drifts slightly above Tel Aviv's urban skyline as the camera rises over Hostages Square, the plaza that has become the emotional centre of Israel's hostage movement. On this evening, thousands of people stand packed shoulder to shoulder, their banners stretched across the crowd like an unbroken quilt of faces, names and stories. They have come for a singular purpose: to demand the return of the final 3 bodies still held in Gaza under the ceasefire. Deal 3 hostages whose families have waited through months of uncertainty, only to wake up yet again with no answer and no closure. From the first aerial shot, the viewer sees drawings of the hostages held aloft on large sheets of white fabric. The illustrations are simple yet unmistakably personal, hand-drawn by relatives, neighbours or volunteers who have dedicated themselves to keeping the identities of Ran, Gvili, Dror and Suddesak Rintalak visible. The images float over the square like memorial lanterns, reminders of absence that still feels unbearably present. Across Hostages Square, Israeli flags wave in slow, synchronized movements. Some are held high on poles, others wrapped around shoulders. It is not a festive gathering. It is not a rally full of chants and noise. Instead, the atmosphere feels restrained, steady and determined. Families stand quietly, their eyes fixed on the stage where speakers will soon address them. Many carry photographs of loved ones laminated or framed, showing smiling faces frozen in time before October 7th changed their lives. The drones circle again overhead, capturing the mass of signs, rows of faces printed on paper, taped onto cardboard, attached to sticks or pinned onto shirts. In one widespread banner, the drawings of the 3 missing hostages appear again, carried by dozens who walk slowly across the square, their pace matching the weight of what they are asking for. Not a political concession, not a strategic bargain, but simply the return of the dead. As the crowd grows, the camera cuts closer to the stage, where Guy Gilboa-Dalal, a captivity survivor, steps forward to greet people. His presence carries its own gravity. He is one of the few who has returned alive, someone who has felt the conditions that the 3 missing hostages likely endured before their deaths. When he raises his hand in acknowledgement, the crowd, though large, remains quiet. They came to listen, and they know the significance of his voice. Families in the audience respond with respectful nods. Some quietly cry. Others hold hands tightly, watching the survivor with a mixture of gratitude and pained recognition. Every person here understands, whether personally or through months of collective grief, what it means to wait endlessly for news that never comes. The gathering is peaceful, but its purpose is anything but passive. As the aerial shot pulls back again, the scale becomes clear. Hostages Square is filled from end to end, its perimeter lined with banners, flowers and candles placed earlier by volunteers. The square, known for months as the symbolic home of the hostage movement, feels especially solemn this evening. The ceasefire brought home many living and deceased, but not these last 3. For their families, closure remains withheld. The voice of Guy Gilboa-Dalal cuts through the silence. Speaking in Hebrew, with his voice steady but clearly emotional, he says, "We will not forget, not for a single moment, the 3 hostages still in Gaza, Ran Gvili, Dror and Suddesak Rintalak. Their families and all the people of Israel are waiting for them. The mission is not complete until everyone returns, until the last hostage." It is not a long statement, but its brevity gives it power. Gilboa-Dalal's emphasis on "until the last hostage" echoes across the square. People repeat the phrase under their breath. Some write it on their posters. Others simply stand still, letting the words settle into the heavy air of Tel Aviv's evening. In the crowd, volunteers who assist families of hostages walk among the attendees, offering water, tissues or quiet. Many of these volunteers have become like extended family to those who have waited months for any sign of their loved ones. Tonight, their role is not logistical but emotional, helping hold together those who feel close to breaking. As the camera pans across the square, one can see the range of ages present. Elderly couples clutching each other for balance, parents with young children perched on their shoulders, teenagers holding phones to capture the speeches. Soldiers in uniform standing silently at the edges. The hostage crisis has touched nearly every household in Israel in some way, and that shared burden is visible in these faces. The next speaker to take the stage is Ruby Chen, the father of Ite Chen, a soldier whose death was confirmed during previous negotiations after long weeks of uncertainty. Ruby Chen stands resolute, his posture straight, his face etched with exhaustion and endurance. When he begins to speak, his voice carries a sharp clarity. He warns those who oppose a full investigative committee into the October 7th attacks. Translated from Hebrew, his message is uncompromising. To those who oppose a full investigative committee, I warn you, history will judge you harshly. Your name will carry a curse for generations after the public brings the hostages home. His words are pointed, political, and deeply personal. The crowd reacts with a low, murmuring wave, some nodding, some wiping tears, some raising the photos of their children or spouses higher into the air. Ruby Chen has become one of the strongest voices advocating transparency and accountability in Israel's political and military decision-making. Tonight, his message is directed not only at leaders, but at anyone who stands in the way of a full accounting of how the hostage crisis unfolded. As his speech ends, the camera once again sweeps over the mass of banners. The images of the 3 remaining hostages appear repeatedly. Their absence shapes the entire meaning of the night. The narration shifts subtly now, widening its lens to provide the global context of the moment. The war, the ceasefire negotiations, the exchange of bodies and living hostages, all of these have played out under intense international scrutiny. Diplomats, intelligence services and aid agencies have worked for months to manage the complicated human transfers that accompany ceasefire deals. For many families, each exchange brought the possibility of relief, but also the devastating risk of receiving the worst news. For Rangavili, for Draw All, and for Sudisak Rintalak, a Thai national working in Israel, the story has not ended. Their bodies remain in Gaza, held either by Hamas factions or by other armed groups. Their families, still waiting, experience the unique pain of knowing their loved ones did not die recently, yet their ability to mourn properly is blocked by a political process they cannot control. Israel's government has repeatedly stated that the return of all hostages, living or dead, is a national obligation. But the complexity of negotiations with armed groups in Gaza, some of whom operate independently of one another, has made final retrieval difficult. This complication is left unspoken in the speeches this evening, but it forms the silent backdrop of the gathering. Returning to Hostages Square, the camera observes how people continue to stream in from connecting roads. They come on foot, by bicycle, in small groups of friends, or in large family units. Some carry candles, others bring flowers, placing them gently around the base of the stage. A small circle of musicians stands near the side, playing soft, somber tunes on acoustic guitars. The music is neither upbeat nor sorrowful. It simply fills the space between the speeches with a sense of continuity. At various corners of the square, NGO volunteers distribute printed information about ongoing efforts to locate the remaining bodies. The leaflets include hotline numbers, support resources, and updates on governmental and civil society initiatives. The Hostage Families Forum, which has organised events like this for months, maintains a strong presence on the ground. Their yellow shirts stand out among the sea of Israeli flags, symbolising consistency amid uncertainty. The scene shifts slightly to capture smaller, intimate moments. A mother showing her young daughter a picture of one of the hostages, explaining quietly who he was. A teenager embracing his grandmother as they both stare at the stage. A group of friends lighting candles and placing them in a small row beneath a large printed banner. Each of these acts reflects how deeply the hostage issue has penetrated the fabric of daily life in Israel. As the voiceover continues, the narrative expands to address the political tensions behind this emotional gathering. Israel's internal debates over leadership, over security failures, over the negotiation process have grown increasingly sharp. Critics demand accountability. Supporters of the government emphasize the ongoing threat from Gaza. Both sides acknowledge that the hostage crisis has become a defining event in Israeli society. Ruby Chen's warning about history judging those who block a full investigation resonates deeply here. The demand for answers is tied directly to the demand for the hostages' return. Every family present feels that transparency and responsibility are necessary for national healing. The camera cuts again to the aerial shot of the three illustrated faces on the banner. The drawing style is childlike, almost tender. It softens the otherwise brutal reality that these men are being held in death, not life. Behind the banner, the skyscrapers of Tel Aviv glow in the fading light, contrasting the heaviness of the moment with the hum of a city that continues moving even when hearts are stalled. As evening settles further in, the voices from the stage continue, some from activists, some from relatives, some from ordinary citizens who stepped forward to speak. Their messages share a common thread, the belief that no ceasefire agreement, no political breakthrough and no military development can be considered complete until the final three return. The narration transitions into a broader reflection on the regional significance of these hostage exchanges. In Gaza, mediators Qatari, Egyptian and international have faced intense pressure to extract information from various armed factions. Some groups have provided lists, others have stayed silent. International officials have described the process as fragmented, uncertain and emotionally destabilizing. Yet every small piece of progress fuels another cycle of hope for the families watching from Israel. Back in Hostages Square, this global complexity is distilled into a single human truth. Families cannot grieve without their loved ones' bodies. No matter the diplomatic complications, the emotional urgency remains simple and clear. The camera shifts to show images of candles flickering under the night sky. Children sit cross-legged on the ground, drawing on posters or writing messages. The scene is quiet, unexpectedly so, given the size of the crowd. The silence is part of the ritual. Silence has become the language of waiting. As the voiceover deepens, it explains how Hostages Square has evolved over the past months. What began as an improvised meeting point has become a permanent landmark. Some Israelis refer to it as the heart of the hostage movement, others as a national vigil without end. Posters hung here have stayed for weeks, weathering rain and wind. Volunteers take shifts to protect them. Photographs replaced with new ones when sun-bleached. Messages updated with new dates, new pleas, new names. Among these posters, the faces of Ran, Dror and Suddasak appear again and again on banners, on T-shirts, on stickers attached to water bottles or strollers. Their presence in the square feels nearly as strong as that of the people holding the signs. The narration moves to the broader emotional landscape of Israel. The hostage issue crosses political lines that rarely blur. People from opposite sides of the ideological spectrum stand side by side in the square, united in purpose. The sense of collective responsibility has become a deeply rooted sentiment. Even those who rarely engage in political gatherings have found themselves drawn to Hostages Square over the months. As the night deepens, the stage lights brighten, illuminating the speakers clearly for the cameras broadcasting across Israel and beyond. International networks pick up sections of the event, translating the speeches, highlighting quotes, and showing the scale of the turnout. For global audiences, the gathering offers a visual testament to a country still living inside the aftermath of October 7th. Now the narration shifts to an emotional core. The families of the three remaining hostages. Although not all are present on stage tonight, they are represented in every corner of the square. Some stand away from the cameras, preferring quiet space. Others embrace friends or speak softly with journalists. Their grief is visible, yet dignified. The crowd respects this distance. People do not push forward to take photos or ask questions. Instead, they maintain a respectful perimeter, allowing the families to move freely, surrounded by support, but not overwhelmed. The narration then provides necessary context. For families of the deceased, final confirmation and repatriation of bodies is crucial for religious, cultural and personal reasons. Jewish tradition places high importance on burial, on honouring the dead, on bringing them home. For a Thai worker like Sudhasak Rintalak, whose family awaits news thousands of kilometres away, the closure is equally vital but shaped by different customs. Yet here in Hostages Square, the demand is shared. Return the bodies, allow the families to mourn properly. As the video progresses, the voiceover reflects on the significance of the survivors' message. Gilboa-Dalal's insistence that the mission is not complete until the last hostage returns captures the prevailing belief that no negotiation should end before the final accounting. For the families, the line between living hostages and deceased ones does not change the obligation of the state. The narration turns to address how these demands influence Israeli political debates. Leaders are aware that the hostage issue carries immense electoral and moral weight. Any future investigation into wartime decisions will inevitably examine the pace and outcome of hostage negotiations. Ruby Chen's warning about historical judgment reflects the same sentiment. Transparency is not optional, it is necessary for national trust. The camera shows the square again, now illuminated fully by artificial lights. The crowd appears. Relentless, unmoving, still focused on the stage. The long, unbroken shots give the impression of endurance, a community unwilling to leave until the message has been fully heard. As the voiceover moves forward, it weaves together the emotional, political and regional threads. The crisis has reshaped Israeli society, deepened global diplomatic entanglements, and left Gaza's civilian population in its own state of humanitarian crisis. Yet here in Hostages Square, one specific demand rises above the broader complexities: bring them home. Even as the ceasefire holds, even as negotiations shift, even as political battles continue, the human story at the centre of this square remains unchanged. Lives lost, lives still on hold, futures suspended until closure arrives. The narration expands further, offering a calm, analytical tone. Israel's experience with hostage crises spans decades, but the scale and emotional intensity of this one are unparalleled. The events of October 7th shattered assumptions about security, triggered prolonged conflict, and forced a reckoning that Israel is still navigating. Tonight's gathering is part of that reckoning, a collective moment of reflection, frustration, grief, and determination. The camera returns to the crowd one final time, capturing their faces in close detail. Some are lit by candles, others by phone screens. The banners sway slightly in the night breeze. Children lean against their parents, tired but attentive. Elderly men and women stand with quiet resilience. The narration slows, situating the viewer inside the emotional reality of this night. The people here are not asking for political concessions or symbolic gestures. They are asking for the most fundamental act of recognition, the return of the dead to their families. They demand that a nation acknowledge its obligation fully, without delay, without compromise. As the final minutes of the script unfold, the voiceover reflects on the enduring impact of this moment. Hostages Square will continue to fill until the last body is returned. The speeches given tonight will be remembered not only for their words, but for the unity they represented. The drawings of the 3 missing hostages carried high over the crowd will remain symbols of a mission unfinished. The camera slowly rises for the closing aerial shot, pulling back from the square until the crowd becomes a dense mosaic of lights, banners and people. Tel Aviv's skyline glows beyond it, modern and bright, yet grounded tonight in the weight of collective grief and unwavering resolve. The final words of the narration speak directly to this image. A nation waits for closure. Families wait for their children. And until the last hostage is returned, alive or in death, this square will remain the heartbeat of that demand, steady, unbroken, and determined to the very end.